So, Norberto, we kind of be, of course, whenever we start talking about pensions and public employees, you're the guy in the hot spot because the OC.
Fine by me.
EA gives you some donations.
Yeah, they're one of my investors. God bless them.
One of the big,
one of the
big
this community service wouldn't go
They've
anywhere
got deep
without
pockets.
those people.
I prefer they give more money to you and less to other things.
Well,
so
fair enough.
That's right. It.
Yeah. But I mean, again, you
hear that, Jennifer? You hear
there's
that?
the scariest thing of our government today, which is pensions. You won't find one politician, not Democrat or Republican, that'll get there and go.
They're afraid.
Where does all this start? It starts at 350 with police. And it starts with politicians who go, this has a great value to an endorsement, and I don't even care what it costs. They don't even look at what it costs to do it.
And by the way, have you heard on this coverage on Dallas what they pay for police in Dallas? That subject's come up.
Interesting.
41,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
wow.
now wait. That's the pay, but I'll bet you if you include the benefits.
But you're talking about
and that
Texas,
kind of thing.
not California.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
But
but
it's
you're
not
right.
half. But the
It's much
standard living's not
because
half.
here the base is about 100.
Oh yeah.
Or more.
And
well,
here, I mean, you
actually,
get
I think it's more.
politicians.
I think it's
What
like
was it? I
100.
remember Antonio Villaraigosa when he's in L.A. 10,000 cops, and it's like, why 10? Why not 20? Why not 50? Why not? I guess you said, why not just shut down the government altogether? We don't need supervisors or city managers. Just have the police chief and the fire chief run the city government. Because that's pretty much all you're going to be offering as services pretty fast.
Well, since we talked about amounts, and your point was excellent on Texas, 40,000 compared to, I said 100,000, but that's about the base because Register just recently had a story. There's this group, Transparent California, which was identified as a conservative-leaning group. Now, when these consumer groups come out with their things, I very seldom see the newspaper refer to it as a liberal-leaning group. But anyway, the conservative-leaning Transparency California did this statewide. It's online. Folks can go check it out. And in Orange County, average public city employee earning in pay and in benefits.
144.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's round it. 145, 144. Good enough. I'm really hard on you. 144, it's 145. What do you mean it's 145? Anyway, we'll call it 144. 144. And you've got cops. I mean, and these are not like, these aren't the city managers.
That's average.
We're talking about. Yeah, this is average. This is the average cop or firefighter pulling in overtime.
But I think that's all.
That's everybody.
Employees. It's not just cops.
So
I think the cop average would be actually higher.
Correct.
Yeah.
There is this article was amazing. There were employees that had made over 100,000 in overtime.
We are
That's
in
cops.
Anaheim.
But that's cops. When you say employees, that's not employees.
Okay.
That's police officers
All right,
and
but
firefighters.
here's a
That's
firefighter.
insane.
Here's an Anaheim firefighter. I won't give his name, but in Anaheim, a firefighter earned $157,000 in overtime.
Yeah, but I mean,
on
that's
gaming the system.
on top of his $103,000
That's gaming the
That's a
system.
lot of money.
That's a lot of overtime.
That's gaming the system.
What you wonder is how can a person do that and be healthy? I mean, there's no, even that's where you wonder where the firefighters union is at to say, how can you let your official, your guys do that?
Yeah, but
because that's where you go driving home and you go
but
off the
Norberto,
cliff.
what they do is this guy knows the guy who's doing the scheduling. They schedule him for things that he can't do. The guy he's scheduled for cancels. He fills in for that time. That's what they are doing. They game the system constantly.
And they are not held accountable. Because when it comes to public safety, ask yourself a question. When's the last time you went to a city council meeting or a county supervisors meeting and you saw a supervisor say, Fire chief, come up here. I want to ask you some questions about the overtime here. How is this happening? Never. I've never seen it.
Here's something I would like to see the media do. And I know, Brian, you don't run the newsroom. You're the editorial board. But Norberto, I'll throw it to both of you just to plant the seed. Every time I talk to one of my fellow reporters, I kind of proselytize about this. Every time somebody retires, all these city managers and fire chiefs you read about, every day they retire, and there's always a nice article about how they built up the community. They did all these wonderful things. Also put down what their pension is going to be, what they are going to get. And then when they get hired 2 months later, in El Segundo or something, mention that, oh, by the way, they're pulling in this pension, and now they'll be making this. Yes.
We do that as a matter of course with everybody.
But it should be done as an absolute matter of routine.
Right.
Or whenever a controversy suddenly hits a police department and the chief retires, he steps away. He's taking his retirement because rather than put up with this bullshit bull for another, a couple years.
That'll be more
He's just
interesting
retired
than
taking
restaurant
his
closures.
fares.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. You're a lawyer, so you would probably know better than I would. But is it possible to do an initiative or pass a law that says if you're collecting a public employee pension from having served in that capacity, collecting taxpayer dollars, you are ineligible to take another paycheck from state government or taxpayer dollars at the same time?
I think it limits, because I know someone who went through this issue of how much money you can collect, particularly from another state agency or government agency. But I think you can work in the private sector.
Yeah, but I think
there
that's
is a limit
fine.
if you go back.
But that's completely fine for you to go from, sheriff or whatever, and you go into the private sector and you have a pension. But then my issue is you're getting a taxpayer-funded pension, and then you're getting a taxpayer-funded salary. There should be some kind of balance.
Yeah. Okay, well,
John Morlock's doing
thank
that.
you for these insights. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we will all stipulate that while we've been beating up on the pension issue, we respect the work, the important work that public employees do.
Certainly.
And that, especially those that put their lives on the line. But the question is, how much is enough, and how much is too much?
So you're suggesting my cheap shot of the guys who patrol Mission Viejo?
No, but you know what?
I don't think that's.
You know what? Those communities are safe, and they want to keep them safe, Bill.
But are they safe because of the patrols? Or are they safe because of the way they're designed, because of the schools, because of the churches, because of people? People make themselves safe, not government necessarily.
Okay,
I
so
know
then
it's a
maybe you
good
don't totally
old-fashioned
subscribe to what I just said, but
I
agree. For once, I agree with you.
Very good.
Perfect.